Hello, Baha Hilo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, but welcome to Roteirices. This is the very first episode I'm doing in English. It's not going to help many of the Brazilians, but I think it can reach a broader audience overseas, and I'll try to get it translated soon so we can have people in Brazil listening to what you have to say. So the idea here is to talk about olive trees, about your struggle, about the Palestine struggle, and what people all over the world can do against the genocide that's been taken in Palestine. So, but first, I'll ask you to make a quick introduce of yourself. Welcome.
Um, Thank you so much, Carlos, for the connection and for the opportunity to speak to you and your platform. My name is Baha Hilo. I am a Palestinian who was born in the town of Bethlehem 45 years ago. I was born to a Muslim family of Palestinian refugees that were expelled from two different parts of Palestine into the town of Bethlehem. Um, and I grew up in a Catholic school where I did my school and high school education. Then I moved on to get a degree in sociology and political science in a university near the town of Ramallah called Birzeit University. Then I uh, moved on to work for the UN, one of the largest humanitarian organizations we have in Palestine, shortly known as UNRWA. Then I moved on to work with the YMCA in Palestine, where my journey with Olive Tree started. Like I was coordinating a campaign that's focusing on uh, uh, like highlighting the struggle of Palestinian families and Palestinian landowners whose olive trees are being destroyed by the state of Israel and its like agents, namely uh, the army and the settlers and every beneficiary, supporter, and defender of Israeli criminal behavior. I moved on after that to actually work on education on Palestine using the olive tree, but also using like the different aspects of Israeli oppression to help people understand the reality that we are forced to survive through under that criminal and fascist and savage regime.
Okay, but I've seen some videos of you all over the internet, and in one of them, you were like kind of doing a kind of political tourism. You were taking people to, I think it was the West Bank, right? And showing
I
them the olive trees and all the process. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when I speak about education on Palestine, like one of the main things is to help people be physically present in the land of Palestine. So what you would call tourism is what I would call like educational visits and educational courses. There is an initiative that I started with a few friends called To Be There. And it aims at helping people who arrive into Palestine to be actually in Palestine mentally, spiritually, and physically. So through that, we help them recognize the different aspects of Israeli infrastructure that aims at the elimination of the Palestinian people from the land of Palestine. We show people the infrastructure, we show the people the policies, we show the people the reality as it is, and people can go home forming their own opinions about that reality. We don't impose what people need to think. Like, for example, I'm not interested in convincing people that it's savage of Israeli criminals to actually uproot 1,000 or 2,000 years old olive tree for whatever reason. I just show people how that happens, and it's up to you to think if that like a form of civility or a form of savagery. I show people like how savage like Israeli criminal behavior and like murdering Palestinian children. Like it's not my place to like get you to think whether it's civilized behavior or a savage behavior to murder and oppress Palestinian children and Palestinian men, Palestinian women, Palestinian families, and so on. So my point is like try to expose as much of the reality as possible. So you, as a visitor, realize like how you are being fooled by your own politicians, by your own propaganda machine, by like the people who communicate Palestine to you in the most dysfunctional or the most like absurd way. Um, so yeah, you can call that tourism, but like in the end of the day, it's a form of education that is rooted in reality and has no academic filters, no propaganda filters, and no political filters.
Perfect. Before we go dive into the olive tree story, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. You went to a Christian school, but are you Muslim?
Yeah.
Are you Christian? How do you navigate on this? Because here
Okay.
we have this propaganda and we have this
Okay.
prejudice against
Okay.
everything. And I've been seeing videos that the Israeli are not only attacking Muslims, Palestinians, but
Yeah.
even Christians, avoiding them
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go to church. But
Yeah.
I have this idea. Okay, after Palestine, who are they going after?
Yeah. Um, like here's the thing. I was born to a Muslim family, and it was the Israeli clerk that decided that I was a Muslim the moment I was born, because like the state of Israel controls our birth registrations. And remember, Israeli criminal behavior is rooted in a definition of faith, like how apartheid in South Africa was rooted in skin color. Uh, Apartheid in the state of Israel is rooted in birth, so they have to decide whether you are superior, namely born to a Jewish family, or primitive and inferior, born to a Palestinian family. Um, so it wasn't me that decided that I was a Muslim. Yes, I was born to a Muslim family that were proud of their faith, like beautiful culture, a way of like looking after each other, being supportive of each other, and definitely like Islamic faith has influenced that culture. But once again, like the same kind of behavior exists also among Palestinian Christian families. I grew up in a Catholic school. The soldier who is placed between my family's house and my Catholic school defined himself as Jewish person. So as a youngster, I ended up like just like any person who's naive would think of faith as like what people practice, you know. So like the representation of Islamic faith would be like people in my family. The representation of Christianity would be like people in my school. The representation of Jewish faith will be the Israeli soldiers. And it's like very simple to actually fall into that trap, where religion is defined by the behavior of individuals rather than by the sacred texts. So naturally, I end up like rejecting all those faiths because like the behavior, especially the behavior of men who claim to believe or uphold those religions, was like kind of abusive, you know. So where you find like men justify patriarchy based on their misinterpretations of whatever religion they claim to have. It was at a later stage when I actually left Palestine to serve the YMCA in Sri Lanka, an island that is ripped apart with civil war, Buddhist nationalism, social nationalism, racism, like towards Tamil populations and other minorities. It was like in that time where I realized that every religion can actually be abused to justify criminal behavior or to justify bad behavior. So I stopped looking at human behavior as a reference to religions and started diving into the sacred texts. And what I found in the sacred texts is like abusive behavior, uh, political abuse, economic abuse, social abuse, goes in direct contradiction, with those sacred texts. So like in a way, yes, I do understand like the naivety of people who uh, allow human behavior to represent sacred texts, but like at the end of the day, just go into those sacred texts and read through them. You will find like all Abrahamic faiths like are connected in a submission to the divine. The one divine that was mentioned in the Ten Commandments was by Moses, confirmed again by Christ, confirmed again by Prophet Muhammad. So it's like the same kind of story that talks about the sanctity of life, sacredness of life, the importance of human beings serving other human beings, those who can help those who can't, and that's actually the truth behind those religions. But once again, every religion can be justified to can be abused to justify criminal behavior. So the state of Israel abuses Judaism to justify its criminal behavior towards Palestine and the Palestinians. The KKK abuses Christian faith to justify criminal behavior. Like KKK abuses like Christianity to justify criminal behavior towards people of color. Um, ISIS abuses Islamic faith to justify its criminal behavior towards all kinds of people. Like ISIS have murdered more than 300,000 Muslims in the Middle East, yet they are allowed to even be representatives of like Muslim faith or whatever, even though they are criminals. The same thing with like Hindu nationalists in India who abuse that way of life to justify criminal behavior towards Muslims and other minorities. Buddhist nationalists, like I never thought like Buddhism would be abused to justify criminal behavior, but we see Buddhist nationalists in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, in many places where like Buddhist faith is being abused to justify criminal behavior. So when you ask me about like my actual faith, like I believe in a faith that upholds the sanctity of life, and I reject every faith that actually goes on to justify the destruction of a human life. I believe in in the importance of recognizing yourself as an individual who's put on this earth to be a servant of those who are less privileged than you. Call it whatever you want, but that's the faith I have.
Perfect. So before we move on, how was living in the city where you were born and raised under
Mhm.
the Jewish authority? Were
I,
you
I
abused?
wouldn't call it Jewish authority. I would just call Israeli criminals to be Israeli criminals.
Perfect.
That's
Okay, better you
uh,
saying that than me.
okay, yeah.
So,
So
were you abused? Were you under arrest? Were you beaten?
okay,
How was
okay,
your childhood and when you were a teenager and a young
okay,
adult?
okay. The first time I touched a gun, I was 7 years and a half. I was going away to just get some coffee for my family. It was after sunset, and then going back home, like I heard like a bunch of legs like running, after me. I didn't look back, but at some point, like those legs caught me, and then it turned out like to be a bunch of like seven adults in uniform, Israeli military, with like long machine guns. And one of the soldiers was like yelling at me, so like, "Tell me where they were, or I will kill you." And like his gun was touching my thigh, and it was cold. Like that's my first time. Like I actually touched the gun, and I was terrorized by like those seven adults.
Sorry, it
Uh,
was like 38 years ago.
yeah, like that's when I was seven. I'm 45. I have not been able to live one day of freedom, 1 minute of freedom in the town where I was born. You know, like every aspect of my life, just like every aspect of any Palestinian life on the land of Palestine, is controlled by that savage regime. It's controlled by a regime that denies you your freedom from the day you are born until the day you die. What you do in between is really irrelevant. Like what happens usually, like you are denied your freedom and then you are being blamed for being denied your freedom.
The
You
day
know,
you die is an euphemism. So the day you are killed, maybe.
no, even when you die naturally, like you know, the majority of Palestinians died naturally on the land of Palestine. Like Palestinians have been on the land of Palestine for thousands of years. Some of them were murdered, but the majority of them died naturally. Um, so, like, it doesn't matter how you die or how you go out. What matters is that between from the day you are born until the day you die or you are murdered or you know you are denied your right to freedom every single minute of your
What
life,
happens in between?
just being denied your freedoms. And then if you try to express your rejection to denial of freedom in any way or form, you will be punished. The state of Israel hates being rejected, so it's an abusive criminal regime that also hates being rejected. It's like one of those like I don't know the kind of like psychological dysfunction you can uh, like describe that regime with, but like they want to oppress you. They demand not only your submission but also your cooperation in being oppressed by them. So the first time I got some kind of an awareness of Israeli like terrorist behavior, I was 7. And what I remember is the confidence of those 7 adults. Of course, I continued to grow, and the soldiers continued to be the same age. Um, as a teenager, I was inspired by a teenager who was born in the town of Bethlehem. He was a stone thrower. Uh, he uh, he went into battle at the age of like 13, 14 with a bunch of stones. He threw like 3, 4 stones and killed an oppressor called Goliath. King David was born in the town of Bethlehem where I was born. So when you refer to Israeli criminals as Jewish people, it's like no, because like King David is Jewish. Benjamin Netanyahu is a fascist. You know, King David was born to a Jewish family that rejected oppression. The state of Israel maintains oppression. So like when people say the state of Israel is Jewish, my natural reaction is like I wish they were. You know, because it was Jewish prophets who told us to believe in the divine, in the one divine, who told us not to kill, who told us not to steal. So if the state of Israel was a Jewish state, then the state of Israel would uphold like the commandments where you should not kill, you should not steal. And the experience of Palestinian people under Israeli state regime is covered with murder and theft. You know, so like I don't care if they claim to be Jewish, but like I know that the very existence of the state of Israel on the land of Palestine is a violation of Jewish prophecies and is a violation of Jewish commandments. So it doesn't matter like whatever they call themselves. It's just like when the state of Israel says like, we are the only democracy in the Middle East or a democracy. And it's like I wish you were a democracy, because you know, democracy means like one person under your control, one vote. The state of Israel is democracy for those who were born to Jewish families. In the exact same way, apartheid South Africa was the only democracy in Africa. It was democracy for a white man who called himself the African. You know,
Yeah.
so like the white man in South Africa, in the south of Africa, called himself the Afrikaner or the native African. And we have Polish and Russian and white idiots who are all over the land of Palestine who call themselves like natives to the land of Palestine. It's just like the same kind of psychological dysfunction that exists in every uh, settler colonial context, you know? Um, so of course, like I did not understand what I was surviving like as a kid. So I expressed my rejection to Israeli criminal behavior as a young kid through, the inspiration of King David, throwing rocks at Israeli military vehicles and at Israeli soldiers. That's how you expressed your rejection as a child. I was never. I was one of those lucky kids who were never arrested for joining protests. Um, I was definitely like beaten up. I would go to school like through clouds of tear gas because Israeli soldiers like enjoyed spraying Palestinian kids with tear gas as they are going towards their schools. Um, at a later stage of my life, I found out that terrorizing Palestinian children is central and essential for Israeli military practice because Israeli military has like this unwritten law where they say like for Jewish people to be safe, Palestinians have to be terrorized. Like Palestinians have to be scared, you know. So it hit me as a later stage that like all the terrorist like activities carried out by Israeli adults towards Palestinians are intentional because the only way like an Israeli would feel safe is when I, as a Palestinian, and all of us under Israeli control, like nearly 7 million Palestinians, are scared. So just like once again, I do not know what kind of like psychological dysfunction that allows you know people to think like their safety is uh, rooted in the terrorizing of others, you know. And like you've seen it through the genocide, like the joy of murdering Palestinians, the joy of destroying Palestinians' lives, the joy of terrorizing Palestinians, the joy of raping Palestinians, the joy of like butchering Palestinians, the joy of like torturing Palestinians, like that comes from uh, the fact that the like Israeli criminals like believe that for them to feel safe, they have to keep Palestinians terrorized from the day they are born until the day they die. But that's like their you know that's their politics. Those are like their values, and that's what they yeah, that's like their business. Like my business is to be able to survive all that savagery without losing my humanity and without losing sense of my humanity.
Okay, Baha, where are you now? You're not in Palestine.
No,
Okay,
actually, since the beginning of the genocide, um, all my work in education collapsed. My work on helping Palestinian families with the olive harvest also collapsed. Planting olive trees collapsed. The state of Israel have been locking Palestinians in the West Bank in more than 120 separate uh, uh, cantons or ghettos. So the area of Bethlehem, it was like 50 square kilometers, where nearly 130,000 Palestinians like live only within that ghetto. That's controlled by walls and military checkpoints and so on. And anybody who wants to get in and out is like has to go through some of the 950 plus military checkpoints that the Israeli army has installed on every road and every way that leads towards a Palestinian community. Um, so I survived that for nearly 1 year, watching us being butchered, watching us being tortured, watching us being terrorized, watching us being like starved. And then in October of last year, I got an invitation to go on a speaking tour in Poland. So I left home to go for a speaking tour in Poland, and then from there went to Luxembourg, to Germany, Italy, uh, Catalonia, and then from there moved to the United States and did like lectures and meetings on and did education on Palestine from coast to coast. Like I started in Boston and then hopped every um, in so many different states. Like I don't even remember like how many states like I visited and I spoke into. but it was like so many places between Boston in the east coast all the way to Portland in the west coast. Um, and recently, I decided to like just leave the U.S. because of like personal reasons and fear of deportation. They came to country in the southeast of Asia called Malaysia. So I'm talking to you from there right now.
Okay, you have a Palestine passport. How do you
I have
leave the Palestine? Who allows you to leave? Who gives you
okay,
authorization to leave?
okay. I have Palestinian Authority travel document. So like some of us, those of us who are in the occupied West Bank, have that as the only document for them to travel. The way we travel is that we're not allowed to use the airport. Like the airport that is controlled by the state of Israel is just an hour away from my house. I'm not allowed to use it. I'm allowed to actually go on a land border that is also controlled by the state of Israel and that's placed between the occupied West Bank and Jordan. So I like the state of Israel is in control of the border and the airport, but like for them, just to make the life completely inconvenient for Palestinians, they deny us access to the airport, but we're allowed to go through the land border, which is opened for like limited time. So we travel through the West Bank, we go through the different checkpoints, we come to the Israeli controlled land border, we're allowed out if the Israelis allow us. And then we get to the Jordanian side and we go into Jordan if the Jordanians allow us. And then we travel to the rest of the world out of Jordan or the airport in Jordan. So like we're not allowed to use an airport that is an hour away from us, but we have to get to Jordan to use an airport in Jordan. And then we travel to countries that we have visas to. Like when I came to Brazil in 2019, like I went that way to Jordan. I had a visa to go visit Brazil, and then I visited Brazil. I had a visa to go to Europe, so I went to
You
Jordan. I
went to the
traveled
Brazilian consulate in
in
Jordan.
Ramallah. In Ramallah,
Oh, in Ramallah. Okay.
yeah, we have a Palestine. We have a Brazilian consulate in Ramallah. We have like European, like many European consulates also in Ramallah. We go there, we apply for the visas, and then we get rejected in most of the times, but like sometimes we are lucky and we get approved. So yeah, we travel only to countries that have visas. Now, Malaysia is one of the very few countries on the planet that allow holders of Palestinian passports to arrive and come in without pre-issued visa. So when I got out of the United States, like I traveled to Malaysia, arrived in the airport, stamped, got a stamp on arrival, and I'm here now.
No plans to leave Malaysia.
I have plans to actually write two books, and it's a very interesting country over here. Like education on Palestine, like people in this country are like good recipients of that. But also, like Malaysia is one of the very successful examples of imposing sanctions on the state of Israel. And like I wish Brazil would
There
follow this
big,
example.
is there a big Palestinian community in Malaysia?
Not big, like Palestinians are everywhere. I think like Palestinian community in Brazil is much larger. Palestinian community in the United States is much larger. Palestinian community in Chile is definitely larger, but there is Palestinian presence in this country. But the very important thing about it is like it's a country that imposes diplomatic sanctions on the state of Israel, and it's a very successful country. And I hope like one day like countries around the world will learn from the Malaysian example. There are many countries like even Brazil, like Brazil being ruled by Lula or being ruled by Bolsonaro. Like they maintain diplomatic and like behavior with the criminal regime in the state of Israel. Like I don't know what is the benefit of Brazil to have a relation with such a criminal regime, but like Maybe they should learn from the Malaysians and just impose sanctions of that criminal regime. Maybe.
Yeah, you see. Okay, but Baha, I'd like to talk now about the olive trees. It's part of
Yes.
your life, it's part of the
Yeah.
Palestinian history.
Mhm.
And to start with, I'll put here on the screen. So it's part of a documentary you took part in called Roots of Resistance. For people who are only on the podcast, it's a documentary, and then I will have you explain a little bit after I show these images, and there's some voiceover until from you until you before you get on screen. So just play it. I hope everything can hear that.
In this culture, a tree is not a thing. A tree is a living being, you know? So, like the people would refer to their trees in pretty much the same sense you would refer to a human being. You would say to a tree, she provided me with this and that. You don't refer to it with the term it. When you ask a farmer about what they witnessed when Israeli bulldozers have destroyed their own trees, and everyone will tell you it's like killing my father or it's like killing my son. People refer to the destruction of the olive trees in the same sense as you would refer to the destruction of life because it represents life. The state of Israel has been working continuously on destroying and removing and uprooting or stealing like Palestinian olive trees.
Okay. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about this documentary? What is that about? And then you go deep into the olive tree culture in Palestine.
Well, Roots of Resistance is like a documentary that was produced by an organization called La Recolectiva that also is active in Catalonia. A bunch of activists wanted to take part in the olive harvest in the land of Palestine. We just met by coincidence, and they wanted to do a documentary. So I helped with the production of that, and I helped with like organizing their thoughts in a way that can actually convey um, a clear, let's say, message on how the state of Israel have been actively working on the destruction of olive trees in the land of Palestine. Um, so yeah, it's one of the beautiful documentaries that I actually yeah helped with, and I'm glad that you could watch it and learn a little bit about the significance of olive trees in the land of Palestine. So to jump into olive trees,
Please.
yeah. Um, like the olive tree that you saw on this documentary uh, is about 4,500 to 5,000 years old olive tree. It's a mother of a lot of trees in the region of Bethlehem. Um, so olive trees on the land of Palestine has existed for thousands of years, which means that its permanence in our life uh, has created certain significance for it, whether in the culture, the religion, the behavior of people, the survival of people, the health of people, the economy of people, and so on. So, like when you look at Abrahamic faiths, like faiths that were developed and evolved on the land of Palestine, all of them agree on the sacredness of olive trees. whether like it was in the Old Testament, the New Testament, Quran. You find that the olive tree is like one sacred tree that all religions actually agree on. In Judaism, for example, like the most graphic description that actually vilifies the destruction of olive trees is like found in Judaism, where it's described like the destruction of an olive tree is described as like decapitating somebody's arms, you know. One of the beautiful significance, I like to share with people is like we as human beings on the land of Palestine, we are not the custodians of the trees. You know, we're not the custodians of the land. The land is the custodian of us, right? We care a little bit for those olive trees, and those olive trees give us generously. So, like you will look after an olive tree for less than 4 days a year, and then that olive tree will provide you with an average of 9 kilograms of olives, 2 liters of oil. You know, and that's just like each tree, like the tree you see in that documentary, will provide you with 700 kilograms of olives. You know, that's
Very
that's like
generous
a
olive tree.
very generous. You know, and that gives you like an understanding on like you come to visit Palestinians, you recognize the harsh reality, and you don't need to do anything other than like just being kind for a few minutes, you know. And then Palestinians will reward that kindness with like generosity. We did not invent that. We learned that from living within the vicinity of an olive tree. Um, Olive trees like survive in harsh conditions. You know, our summers are pretty harsh, like especially August. Um, Yet, like it survives all of this, and once again, it gives you generously after the summer. So, like you realize like the harshness of genocide, oppression, ethnic cleansing, Israeli apartheid, and then you visit us, and you, with a little bit of kindness, you can actually experience what we would call life. And many people recognize that what we call life is called hospitality, right? Uh, but like for us, we do not think like hospitality is like anything except like normal life, you know? Um, so we learn patience from those trees. We learn wisdom from those trees. We understand that those trees have witnessed so much, you know. So today's struggle is just like one little part of like struggles after struggles that those olive trees have survived through. The land of Palestine is covered with nearly 7 million olive trees that we have inherited from past times, like from 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and so on. Of course, we have 3 to 4 million newly planted olive trees. And when I say newly planted, I'm talking about like within the past 20 years. But the majority of our olive trees, are olive trees that are rooted in our history. We do not know the names of the individuals that planted those trees, but like we honor those hands by like actually maintaining those olive trees, by looking after them, by like making sure that they are cared for and so on.
Because an olive tree that is planted is for the future generations, right?
Yeah, you know who said that? There is a Greek proverb that sounds like this: a society grows strong when old men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. So you don't plant an olive tree for yourself, you know? It's an act of selflessness. You know, you plant it for people you will never meet, you know, for children, grandchildren, and people you will never see. Like, that's how in our culture we actually think of life to be 5 connected generations, you know? The, the grandfather, the father, yourself, the son, the grandson. Those are like the main 5 generations. And the job of those 5 generations is to honor the past and prepare for the future, you know? So, like, my great grandfather did not know my name, yet he planted olive trees that I was not allowed to actually harvest because, like, his son was displaced or removed from their property. But nonetheless, that's the kind of long-term vision that we learn from planting olive trees.
And you've
Um,
planted a lot.
Sorry?
And you have planted a lot.
Yeah, the destruction is beyond, you know, like when the state of Israel destroys an olive tree that is 1,000 years old, like I need to plant an olive tree today in order to replace it in 1,000 years from now. I don't like work on planting a lot of olive trees because I want to replace the destruction. Like it's impossible to replace the destruction. So I'm not a fool
How
because like
long does an olive tree takes to start fruiting?
an average of 10 years to
10
create an olive tree to start producing. The average needs to be looked after for an average of 10 years. There are like methods that will get you to actually collect olives off every tree you plant within 3 years. There are different methods, but like to produce the average, you have to have uh, up to 10 years of care. But like, of course, the olive tree will produce olives in every year that you are looking after it. You abandon an olive tree for 5 years, it will stop producing. It's like some kind of magic where olive tree would sense that nobody needs its olives, so it just like stops producing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just like magical. It has a sense of humanity the same way humans have sense of it. But like, of course, Israeli criminals have no sense of
Anything.
no, no, like just like any settler, like any savage settler that goes into, like I do not think like early settlers that came to Brazil understood like indigenous life there, and I don't think like it will. As long as people in Brazil speak Portuguese, they will continue to be disconnected from indigenous life and indigenous wisdom on the land of Brazil. Like this is why you find like abusive companies that will cause more than 70,000 fires every year in Brazil. This is why like you find like destruction of environment, destruction of like sacred land, because like settlers or settler colonial value is rooted in abuse and exploitation of indigenous land and indigenous life and indigenous property. So like one of the things I remember, like the horror of walking through Brazil, that made me feel like I'm walking through Palestine in 400 years from now. you
Really?
know yeah, yeah, yeah. Like just the exploitation of the sacred land of Brazil is everywhere. You
Burning
know,
everything down to plant soybeans.
yeah,
It's
to
unbelievable.
just like burn down like forests in order to claim them for like private sector. Like it's just criminal. But like, of course, like
Ecos.
people who, yeah, like the people who are behind it, like they don't care about anything but like make more and more cash. And also like indigenous wisdom that talks about 5 generations means that those people do not care about their children or grandchildren. They don't care about what kind of planet they will leave for their grandchildren because they're greedy. They're settlers. They're not indigenous. They are not connected to the motherland. They don't see land as their mother. Because if
And
they see land as their mother, they will recognize that they are raping their own mothers. So they don't understand the concept of motherland.
now they are
It,
financing Elon Musk to go to Mars so they can do that again on Mars. And
Well, I think all those people need to go to Mars. In fact, like maybe we should ship them to the sun.
Today.
You know, yeah, like they should go to the sun, not to Mars, because like what they are doing over here is like all the exploitation and destruction of the planet. You know, and they just think they are very brilliant. They want to bring in that kind of savagery to other planets.
Yeah.
So like I hope all of them like end up going to the sun. Like I will contribute like yeah a lot to get rid of those um, criminals once again. Um, so like in the land of Palestine, exploitation views olive trees as an obstacle. So, like during the genocide, the state of Israel viewed nearly 1 million olive trees on the land of Gaza as an obstacle. They destroyed 1 million olive trees during that genocide. It took the state of Israel from 1967 up until the year 2001 to destroy 1 million olive trees. You know? But now within the genocide, they are so advanced where they destroyed 1 million olive trees in less than 2 years. Israeli criminals like also destroy an average of 10,000 olive trees every year on average in the occupied West Bank. There was a report from the Agriculture Works Committee in Palestine where they mentioned like nearly 9,700 olive trees have been destroyed by the state of Israel and its actors in the occupied West Bank only in this year, and this year has not even come to an end. How does the state of Israel like destroy olive trees? There are different methods, but like it's all studied because like once again, olive trees does not only represent like a cultural significance, like also it represents like it has space in our poetry, but also in our economy. Like every olive tree produces like an average of 2 liters of olive oil. You know, our olive oil is very expensive. So like you know, like when you destroy an olive tree, you just make sure that the family. It's not like they lose their access to their olive oil now, but you also make sure they lose their access to their olive oil in the future. So besides like its nutritional value and its economic value as olives, we have olive oil soap, for example. Like believe it or not, soap was invented on the land of Palestine 1,000 years ago, and the main ingredient of it was like olive oil that was boiled together with alkali acid, and that's how you make soap. So Palestinians made the world cleaner 1,000 years ago oil that comes from by inventing soap that actually comes from olive oil. 500 years ago, Palestinians like also decided to turn olive wood into like artwork. Like we have so many uh, artists who actually turn olive wood into artifacts, like call it uh, you know, gifts that tourists would take from the land of Palestine that are made out of olive wood, all of it. Like the olive wood industry is an industry that exceeds like up to like $2 billion on the land of Palestine. You know, olive oil is like even more than $2 billion. Olive oil soap is like also around like 30 to 40 like $1 million kind of an industry. So like the olive tree itself is generous in so many different ways. But like you know, what does our oppressors say? Our oppressors say like Palestine is a land without people. You know, for people without land. Now, if you are an
But
idiot
it's
in
a lie.
Brazil, hold on, like
Yeah,
that's a lie that
let's
works.
start
So like when I would come
stressing
to
that.
Brazil, yeah, when I come to Brazil or to America or like to Europe and talk to a white person and tell them, well, you know what, Palestine is a land without people, you might trust me and you believe what I say. But when I bring you to the land of Palestine and tell you like Palestine is a land without people, you think I'm stupid. Why? Because olive trees are all over the place. Olive trees are not wild trees. A 2,000 or 1,000 or 5,000 years olive tree needs human care to continue to be productive. You know? So, like, olive trees are the evidence that Palestine was never a land without people. You know?
That's why
So,
you have a fascist government trying to cut all the olive trees because
a fascist regime,
you erase.
exactly. So, a fascist regime from 1948 erased the people, destroyed and leveled their homes, covered their homeland and villages with nearly 300 million pine trees, you know? And we'll talk about pine trees in a second. And then now going after olive trees because olive trees remain to be like the last evidence of Palestinian existence on the land of Palestine. So when I'm standing before like 1,000 years old olive tree and tell you like Palestine was a land without people, I will sound like an idiot. Because who has been like looking after those olive trees, 7 million of them, for the past 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 years? Olive trees, once again, like they are not wild trees. They require human care to continue, producing. So there was like an Israeli inspector who described it in the most like Israeli way. He said uh, he referred to olive trees by saying like their children, their trees look so naive as if they can't harm anybody. But like their children, several years later, they turn into a ticking bomb. The state of Israel is obsessed with murdering Palestinian children, and they are obsessed with destroying like olive trees. Because a Palestinian child will blow away the racist claim that Palestine is a land without people or there is no such a thing as Palestinians, which like many Israelis believe, including the Israeli prime minister and his cabinet, like they believe that there's no such a thing as Palestinians. So every Palestinian child blows away that racist claim that Palestinians do not exist.
And killing a child,
And then,
killing the future.
yeah, killing the child. So, like, a Palestinian who's murdered means that there's no Palestinian. So like you claim that there are no Palestinians. So how are you going to
Because
make
the
that?
child will never have a child.
Yeah. So like the obsession with murdering Palestinian children comes from the place where those people are obsessed with the elimination of the Palestinian people. They are in denial of the very existence of the Palestinian people. You know, and then an olive tree itself, like what does an olive tree blow away? It blows away the Israeli claim that Palestine was a land without people. So you have to uproot it. You have to destroy it in order to maintain some credibility for this like racist, claim that Palestine was a land without people. So the obsession comes from a place of elimination, because, like, remember, the state of Israel was an idea carried out by like a bunch of fascists who met in a town called Basel back in 1896, and they wanted to create a Jewish state on the land of Palestine. So when you want to create a Jewish state on the land of Palestine, you view the presence of Palestinians in Palestine to be an obstacle or a problem. So what do you do with that? You fix it. You fix it through ethnic cleansing, you fix it through apartheid, you fix it through genocide, you fix
Which
it
goes
through...
to Baha, sorry, It goes to if there was no people on that land, we wouldn't have any issue, any problem, right?
Okay, so what do? You eliminate the people. And then you insist that those people don't exist. You know why?
Tell me.
Because it's impossible to commit a crime against people who don't exist. So Palestine is a land without people. So if the people don't exist, then Israeli criminal behavior also doesn't exist. Palestine is a land without people. There are no people in Palestine. So who are the people that Israel is killing? There are nobodies. You know, that actually explains why so many defenders and supporters and beneficiaries of Israeli criminal behavior get really upset and angry when you just try to confront them with their criminal behavior. You're like, no, we are not committing any crimes. There's nobody like that we commit. And if we commit any crimes, it's not because of us. It's like those are the people are calling for it. You know, you have Israeli criminals who just said, there is an Israeli criminal who said, I think in 2011, that Palestinians are bringing a bigger Shoah upon themselves. Shoah, the Holocaust. So Palestinians are bringing a bigger Holocaust upon themselves. It's just like, people bring Holocaust upon themselves. Nobody brings a Holocaust upon himself. People are subject to Holocaust. Nobody brings genocide upon themselves. People are subject to genocide. Nobody brings apartheid upon themselves. People are subject to apartheid. So Israeli criminal behavior is rooted in places where they have to insist that Palestinians don't exist. It's not like Palestinians don't exist as humans. They don't exist at all, Because if I insist that Palestinians don't exist at all, then the criminal behavior the Palestinians are subject to never took place.
And the genocidals want to make people believe that the very Palestinian crime is to exist.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you exist, you are a criminal.
Yeah, the state of Israel has a strategic threat that they talk about all the time. You know what they call it? The demographic threat. The state of Israel has to face a demographic threat. The very existence of Palestinians is viewed as a threat. The same way Jews represented the demographic threat to fascists in Europe. So how would you solve it? Black people represented a demographic threat for white supremacists in America and in South Africa. So how do you solve it? When you recognize the very existence of people to be a problem, there is no law you can hit in mistreating them,
An endless hole.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, but once again, that's their business,
Yeah. But you mentioned a date, a very important one, and I would really like to hear from a Palestinian. How do you say Palestine in Arab? Palestina?
In Arabic, you say Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine. With a
Palestine.
the word Palestine is coming from Latin, Palestina.
From the
But
road.
in Arabic it comes from Falsafa, or come from Palestine, or the Philistines, who are people that came from Crete. But the word itself has different roots, and therefore different meanings.
Okay. But
Some Israeli fascists they go around saying there is no such a thing as Palestinians because there is no P in the language they speak. So there is no P in Arabic. So that's evidence that we don't exist because there is no P in the Arabic language.
Very accurate.
Yeah. Apply that on Egypt.
Yeah.
Because they speak Arabic in Egypt. You can say there's no such thing as Egyptians because there's no P in the language they speak. You can eliminate 120 million people just like that.
Yeah.
But once again, fascists are inconsistent and stupid anyway.
Sure. So, but I mentioned the date, and I'd like to hear from a Palestine. a
Hmm.
Palestinian guy because I've read about it.
Hmm.
It's the Nakba, 1948. I've been reading
Okay.
books from like Ilan Pappé, the
Ethnic
Israeli
cleansing of Palestine. Yeah. Okay.
historian. So Nakba,
Okay.
start from the beginning. What the word Nakba
Mhm.
means and what
Nakba.
happened and what the
Mhm.
Israeli state did there.
Okay. Um, Nakba means like man-made catastrophe. You know, um, uh, and it's a reference to the man-made catastrophe that the Palestinian society was hit with in the period between December of 1947 until October of 1949. It's a man-made catastrophe that was, of course, orchestrated by the British government that was in control of the land of Palestine. The British government went to the UN, and the UN in November 29, 1947, decided to partition Palestine. Um, Jewish immigrants will get more than half of the country. Palestinians will remain in less than half of the geography. You know, uh, uh, and of course, like Britain abstained from that vote. They didn't vote in favor of the partition because uh, the British are the most cunning savages on the planet.
They were part of
Uh,
the plot. So
yeah, yeah, but like we want to partition Palestine. We want to eliminate Palestinians from Palestine. We want to honor the Balfour Declaration. We want all of that, but we want to stay off the records. You know. So immediately after approving the partition plan by some 33 countries, I think Brazil is one of those countries. Um, 70,000 militants who were among the 350,000 Jewish immigrants carried out a military um campaign that aims at the elimination of Palestinians from the major cities in Palestine. Um, those major cities are like Safed, Haifa, Jaffa, Akka, Asqalan, the major cities where the majority of the Palestinian population live. Like, like in any society, the majority of the population lives in cities. The last city to be depopulated was the largest Palestinian city at the time, Jaffa, that had a population of 70,000 people. And to put things in perspective, the largest city in the occupied West Bank right now is a city called Hebron with like 350,000 people. Hebron in 1948 or 1946 had 21,000 people. Jaffa had 70,000 people. So if Jaffa was not depopulated, Jaffa would have been like a million people's town, you know, but was depopulated by May 15th. After the depopulation of the major cities, the board members of like the leaders of those like criminals and the 70,000 militants or 70,000 criminals declared the establishment of the state of Israel on the land of Palestine. And that was by May 14th or May 15th, 1948. The elimination of Palestinians continued, where those militants now became the Israeli Defense Force, and the Israeli Defense Force moved from depopulating cities to depopulating villages, committing massacres right, left, and center. Uh, the number of Palestinian communities, cities, and villages that were depopulated in that process was more than 531 Palestinian communities. Then, by October 20, 1949, Israeli criminals signed truces with Kingdom of Jordan, and the Kingdom of Jordan was given a territory in Palestine. They called it the West Bank. The Kingdom of Egypt. Egypt at the time was a kingdom, and they were given a territory that was called the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians who were expelled from their communities, they were actually put in a concentration camp in Gaza, concentration camp of Palestinian refugees in Gaza. You have refugees that were expelled from 240 Palestinian communities that were locked up in that strip that was named after the city of Gaza. The city of Gaza is a 5,000 years old town. In the occupied West Bank, like 30% of that population were Palestinian refugees. So from 1949, the outcome of Nakba was the depopulation of nearly 530 Palestinian communities, displacement of 85% of the Palestinians who lived between the river and the sea at the time, denial of those people like any right of going back to their properties. The state of Israel robbed every one of those families that were expelled of their property and inheritance. And they denied like any of those Palestinians who would actually dare to go back to their communities. They were treated as infiltrators, and they would be murdered, they would be arrested or deported, you know? So actually what denied Palestinians like any access back to their like properties and homes and communities was like fear of being murdered, because many of them were murdered. In Nakba, of course, defenders, supporters, and beneficiaries of Israeli criminal behavior, they say like Arab armies attacked, you know? But like the Arab armies were like actually had a coordinator, and that coordinator is a British general that made sure that all the Arab armies will not actually attack, you know, Israeli criminals, but they will be like on certain bases. The main thing those Arab armies would work on is to evacuate Palestinians from their communities and villages. But then this story was promoted as like the little state of Israel was attacked by 6 countries and prevailed. And like, well, 4 of those 6 countries were British colonies. 2 of them were like French colonies. You know, so like you wonder what to believe that British colonies were allowed to attack a British project on the land of Palestine, you know? So like Nakba is a man-made catastrophe, and the man that was involved in it is every single Zionist man on the land of Palestine and every single politician in Britain and France and in the West. So that is, like Nakba is like the first world war on the Palestinians. And Nakba included the first genocide that Palestinians had to survive through. Just like the past genocide that lasted for 2 years. You know, it was a world war on Gaza. It was a world war on Palestinians, where every single westernized government supplied the state of Israel with means of murder and destruction. Diplomatic means, economic means, and military means. You know, it's just the same crap. Same crap. So like Nakba is a man-made catastrophe that continues up until today. That's it. The maintenance of it continues up until today. It never stopped. It continues as long as the state of Israel is in control of the fate of any one Palestinian on the land of Palestine. Because like they will continue until there is complete elimination. Before the genocide, Israeli Nakba of the Palestinians resulted on the displacement and removal of 66% of the entire Palestinian population. It was going on and on and on and on and on from 1947 up until 2023 pre-October. And then after October, like you can't, like we still, like the dust of the genocide have not settled. We really are in a process of counting the losses right now to see how that percentage have like increased from 66% to whatever percentage we are going to talk about when we get the data correct.
What, yeah, what do you foresee for the situation there? Because when I watch,
Elimination, complete elimination, Carlos.
you
That's what I
see,
see.
so
That is what I see. As long as an Israeli person is allowed to exist on the land of Palestine, that one Israeli person will go on until the complete elimination of the Palestinian people on the land of Palestine. When
so
I told people
a
this,
Palestinian
when,
state is not the answer.
sorry?
So a Palestinian state recognized with border is not the answer. It's not gonna.
Like, the United States is made of 50 states, like, and everybody recognizes 50 states, so what? Like, I don't know how many states you have in Brazil. Like, I think we have 15. So, like, what?
27
27. Like,
in the
okay.
federal district.
I visited 7. Like, it doesn't, like, the number of states doesn't really matter. Like, the two-state solution is a lie, that started back in 1917. Like, the first two-state solution is the Balfour Declaration, like divide Palestine into 2 states, and then the partition plan was a 2-state solution. We had a 3-state reality between 1949 and 1967. The Israeli government controlled most of Palestine, Jordan controlled part of Palestine, Gaza was controlled by Egypt. So we had 3 governments in control of Palestine. We had a 3-state solution. So the 2-state solution is just like, a fig leaf that westernized government, can use to bury their shame and collaboration with Israeli criminals to maintain their control on the land of Palestine. It's a lie. It's a solution for a problem that we're not suffering from. Like our problem is not resolved by a nation state on the land of Palestine. So what is our problem in the land of Palestine? Our problem in the land of Palestine is Israeli oppression, Israeli apartheid, Israeli genocide, Israeli savagery, Israeli criminal behavior, that's our problem. And that problem is not going to be removed or resolved by forcing Palestinians to coexist as neighbors with their oppressors. South Africa during apartheid had a 13-state solution. There were 13 Bantustans on the land of South Africa. And every South African had to coexist with the savages of apartheid in South Africa. It wasn't sustainable. Our problem is Israeli oppression. The solution for Israeli oppression is end of Israeli oppression. Our problem is Israeli injustice. The solution for injustice is justice. And now supporters, defenders, and beneficiaries of Israeli criminal behavior go around telling us like the consequences of end of Israeli oppression is that Jews will die. Like Israelis and their allies are promoting Jewish people as like a bunch of people who are allergic, to the fulfillment of Palestinians' rights. So like if Palestinian rights are fulfilled, the main rights, like everyone is born free and equal. If Palestinian freedom and right to equality are fulfilled, Jews will die. No, that's stupid. The only people who have fear of justice, the only people who have fear of freedom, the only people who have fear of equality are criminals. So when Israelis go around saying like, oh, we're scared of freedom of the Palestinians, we're scared of the Palestinian right to equality, it means that those Israelis are criminal. It doesn't mean that I'm an undeserving person of my freedom and my equality. So we are ruled by criminals, and the world wants us to continue to coexist with Israeli savages, with Israeli criminals, with Israeli genocidal, like maniacs. The 2-state solution is to force Palestinians to coexist with those criminals. The solution is not forcing me to coexist. The solution is not to improve my life under Israeli criminal behavior. The solution for slavery was not to improve the lives of slaves under slavery. The solution for apartheid South Africa was not to improve the life of South Africa, like native South Africans under apartheid. No. Solution for slavery is end of slavery. It doesn't matter. There were like so many people who were like, yeah, if we free the slaves, like they will enslave us. Bullshit. If we dismantle apartheid in South Africa, like South Africans will eat us. Bullshit. If we allow Palestinians the right to freedom or the right to return or the right to justice, then they will eat us. Bullshit. So the solution is not a two-state solution or a three-state solution or any number of nation-state numbers. Even when you feel like, or you see Palestinians who are demanding recognition, that's stupid. And we have a lot of stupid Palestinians. We have a lot of Palestinians who cannot see their life and cannot see their freedom, because as Paulo Freire told us, the uneducated oppressed are doomed to become oppressors, and the oppressed are not educated. They have no idea what freedom is. So they will accept whatever their oppressor is going to give them. No, my freedom is not under my oppressor. My freedom is beyond my oppressor. I need my oppressor to be dismantled so I can have access to my freedom. Now, dismantling my oppressor is promoted as death of Jews. I'm not promoting that. It's the defenders, supporters, and beneficiaries of my oppressor who are just saying that. But I honestly do not understand how my right to freedom is going to cause some kind of an allergy to those who are born to Jewish families. My freedom would mean they will have a heart attack and they will die. What kind of stupid way of promoting Jewish people on the planet today? If Palestinians are free, Jews will die. That's pretty stupid.
But do you think that Netanyahu, Itamar, Ben-Gvir, or any of those guys will end up on international criminal courts?
No. They will sleep peaceful. They will die peacefully in their beds. Because those people are packed by those people are an extension of the savagery of the white world. They share the same values, as the savages who are ruling Germany, Britain, France, and every single savage government that has been supporting the state of Israel from 1948 up until today. International Criminal Court is not made for Israeli savages. Israeli savages have been dying peacefully in their beds since 1948. Ben Gurion died peacefully in his bed. Ariel Sharon died peacefully in his bed. Menahem Begin died peacefully in his bed. The one thing that Benjamin Netanyahu is really mad about is you allowed all those Israeli savages to get away with their criminal behavior before. Why aren't you allowing me to get away with it? So Benjamin Netanyahu feels Western governments are being biased against him because they were not biased against his forefathers. They were not biased against his political father, Isaac Shamir. So no, those people will die peacefully in their beds.
But now there's little information about what happens inside Israel in Brazil, for example, because we are always controlled by the Western media, and they're always broadcasting stuff about Israel. So Israel bombs Palestine. So some people from Palestine fights back and say, okay, 3 kids or 5 people were killed in Israel. They don't interview anyone from Palestine. Nothing.
What is the most disgusting part of Western propaganda and Western coverage now? They reduce oppression to a debatable matter. They reduce Israel's savagery to a debatable matter. They reduced genocide to a debatable matter. They reduced Israeli apartheid to a debatable matter. Those are not debatable matters, you know? But the job of propaganda is to turn oppression into a debatable matter. That's it. Apartheid South Africa was a debatable matter. And then when it collapsed, all propaganda machines claimed that they actually were like critical of apartheid. No, they were never critical of apartheid. They were beneficiaries of apartheid. They loved seeing black people in South Africa being murdered by the white man, because that is like civility. That's how the white man practices his civility, by murdering brown and black people around the world. They practice their civility by exploiting black and brown people around the world. Carlos, doesn't it shock you that we live in a place where Africa, the most wealthy continent on the planet, Africa is poor, and Europe, the poorest continent on the planet, you know, is wealthy? Doesn't it shock you? Like, what the hell does the white world have? Europe, what does Europe have? Mud, rain, you know, humidity, racism, and weapons of mass destruction and elimination. That's what they have. Racism and the weapons needed to implement that racism around the world. They loot the world. You know, they loot the world. They rob people of their things. Like, what does Britain have? You know, mud, rain, and murder. You know, Britain looted India. Like, India, before the presence of like any British soldier, you know, it stood for up to like 23 to 24% of global GDP. A quarter of the world wealth was in India. Where did that wealth go? You know, and you know, Indians are not grateful that the British have robbed them of everything. You know, now you have Indians in India drinking English tea. I've been to India. I've been to England. There is no tea plantations in England. Where does the English tea come from? You know, where does Italian coffee come from? You know, it comes from Brazil, right?
Yeah, Nespresso cups, Nespresso pods.
You know, like Europe is a shameless. The white man is a shameless man. That's what I want to tell you. And we have the worst white man in the land of Palestine. And for those savages in Europe to not be completely exposed, they need the face of the state of Israel. Because then every savage in Europe looks good in comparison to Israeli criminals. But if the state of Israel like collapses, then all those criminals will appear as criminals. So it's in the best interest of, sorry.
Yeah, there's a famous video of Biden, I don't know, even the 80s or
Yeah.
early 90s, saying about if Israel does not exist, not with
we have
to invent it.
Invent in Israel. Yeah. They need savages that make them look good. You know,
Someone
they
has
need
to do
savages.
the dirt job.
Yeah. Like Israelis say that all the time, and they're allies. They're fascist allies and white supremacist allies. Say like, yeah, Israel is doing our dirty job. Like, what makes Nazi Germany look good? People think like social nationalism died in Germany. But what makes people think that social nationalism died in Germany? German cooperation with the state of Israel. But social nationalism is alive and very well in Germany. You know, they stopped murdering Jews, but like, you know, other people of color.
Yeah.
They oppress people who just stand against Israeli criminal behavior. Can you imagine that? The Gestapo is back in Germany. You know, but the Gestapo is being used against Palestinians and those who stand for freedom and equality for the Palestinian people. The state of Israel is needed because it makes the Belgians look good, the Dutch look good, the Germans look good, the British look good.
Norwegians?
Well, Norwegians, yeah, they fooled us. Like the Norwegians, like they hosted a bunch of Palestinians in a hotel to be raped by the state of Israel in Oslo Agreement. You know, the Oslo Agreement was like legitimizing Israel's destruction of the land of Palestine. Norway takes pride in resisting German occupation. During German occupation of Norway, there was a Norwegian man who accepted to rule Norwegian people under the domination of German occupation. That was a guy called Quisling. Norway, that takes pride in like punishing and executing Quisling, have hosted negotiations where a Palestinian man will be allowed to rule Palestinian people under the domination of the state of Israel. Do you see the hypocrisy of Norway? Every government that has diplomatic relations with the state of Israel is disgusting beyond our knowledge. Every single one of them.
But I cannot tell how happy I am to have this conversation, and I want to get the most from you, and I cannot allow me to finish
Carlos,
without. Yes.
Carlos,
Yes.
let's call this an introduction.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Yeah. You're the
I
guy.
wanted to speak about olive trees, but like,
No, we'll go back in a minute if you have a few minutes more.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like to hear from a Palestinian
uh-huh,
because I did an interview with our common friend
with Ahmed, yeah, with
Ahmed
Ahmed, yeah,
about Ghassan
Kanafani,
Kanafani.
yeah,
What does Ghassan Kanafani mean for Palestine? For you?
Hassan Kanafani is like a young Palestinian man who was like expelled uh, with his family as a child. You know, he was a child when he was expelled. But he was a talented author. He wrote many like novels before he was murdered at the age of 36. His talent was like to be able to communicate
Keep talking.
yeah, to communicate the pains of the expulsion, the pride of resistance, the corruption of some of the oppressed, but also the pride of some of the oppressed. Did you read him?
Yes.
Which one is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like which one? Which one is that?
Yeah, I'll show it here. So because I have a blur stuff here in my.
Yeah. But just read me the title of the novel.
It's Saad.
Saad. Yeah, Saad is one of the early novels. But besides like his, because like every Palestinian is a politician in a way, you know. So he joined the Palestinian resistance through the Popular Front of the Liberation of Palestine. And he, because he's a talented author, he's a very inspiring speaker, he became like the spokesperson for PFLP. And he continues to be an icon. Like he's one of many. Returning to Haifa, yeah, returning to Haifa, yeah.
Haifa.
Returning to Haifa, yeah.
What has left them?
Yeah.
And this is the Man
Yeah.
to the Sun.
Man in the Sun, yeah. This one is like also Man in the Sun is like just talks about like survival, but also like how we sometimes fail in surviving, like the harshness of expulsion, the harshness of being thrown into refugees camps, and we are blamed for not being able to survive, you know. And of course, like victims of oppression sometimes like blame themselves. Um, but like it actually, him without being a psychologist managed to communicate the psychology of the oppressed in ways that uh, continue to resonate up until today. You know, you can see it like when Palestinians blame Palestinians for not being like good enough victims or whatever. Um, like it still resonates up until today. Hassan was murdered together with his niece. Um, and yeah, like by murdering him, he turned into an icon. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, like a beautiful author. Like Palestine has produced a lot of geniuses, but they were not allowed to live long enough to share more of their wisdom, more of their work, more of their like intelligence. Uh, but yeah, like Palestine is very, 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 very wealthy with its genius, like educators, inspiring like people. Like Palestine is full of people who were willing to sacrifice their life for my freedom. You know, I'm not going to judge their methods because I agree or disagree with it. But as a Palestinian, every one of us that lost a drop of their blood for my freedom is ways better than me, you know, and that's not something I believe in or I recognize by myself. That's what the majority of us do. Hassan Kanapani like sacrificed his life for the freedom of his own people. Uh, he was murdered for that, but like so many of us continue to be murdered in quest of freedom. Some of us sacrifice their life intentionally. Some of us like get murdered unintentionally. But nonetheless, um, yeah, like I have no idea where we get all this power to defy the only nuclear power in the Middle East. You know, uh, but we do have that power, and Ghassan reminds us uh, that this power is genuine and this power is, you know, is rooted in us, you know,
Maybe
and we will
because you are kind of olive tree that
no, we
survived
are
all this
inspired by olive trees,
harsh.
man. Carlos, when you burn an olive tree you don't kill it. Like I worked in an art center near Bethlehem where like 3 olive trees were burned. They needed a little bit of care, just a little bit of care, and then they produced like olive oil. Like I need to send you like a copy of this book, um, where it also uh,
Common ground.
yeah, it's actually a produce of CHRA, which is like what this is the Center for Human Rights and Arts in Bard University in New York. So in this book, like they talk about also some of the projects that I worked on in Bethlehem, where like you know olive trees like need a little bit of care to get back to produce, and Palestinians who have lost things beyond your imagination to understand just need a little bit of care. a little bit of care, to be like active, to share their knowledge, to share their wisdom, share their stories of survival, to share their service to their fellow Palestinians. Just a little bit of care, you know. We learn from the olive trees once again, um,
Yeah.
and
So,
we go on. Yeah,
Baha, I was planning, as I told you before, but I changed my mind because I have some footage from Israeli settlers destroying olive trees. But I think it's not the case to show that let's celebrate life. Let's show how the olive tree culture is much, much stronger than
Israeli
anything.
settlers. Yeah, Israeli settlers who destroy olive trees are very stupid because they have no idea what they are destroying. They're destroying something that is undestructible, you know, but they are very stupid. They see olive trees as like evidence of Palestinian families, you know, survival or existence. So they want to harm that Palestinian family by destroying their olive trees. But they're very stupid. Like
Thinking they are erasing the past. The
they don't
future.
understand what a Palestinian family is. You know, they don't understand what a family is. You know, in Palestine, like I told you, like we were expelled from 531 communities, right? Every single Palestinian knows where his family was expelled from. And it's not because family tell family. No, every family is local to somewhere. Like in Malaysia, I met like a Palestinian who was deported uh, by the state of Israel out of Palestine. He was released in prisoner swap. All what I needed to know is his family name to find out that we are from the exact same village. Our families are from the exact same village. How did I know that? He has a family name. I have a family name. The family name is a zip code to where we are from. Israelis don't understand that. Israelis like have no idea what indigenous wisdom on the land of Palestine is. Why? Because they are exploiters. They are like thieves. They are like people who are in the land of Palestine to like abuse it, rape it, and exploit it. You know, they have no idea what indigenous wisdom is.
And it leads to a phrase that it's some people attribute to Golda Meir, the former prime
Yeah.
minister. We will not forgive the Arabs for forcing us to kill their babies.
She said like we might forgive the Arabs for killing our kids, but we will never forgive them for making us kill their children. Yeah, it's like it's once again is the psychological dysfunction of a Ukrainian settler who lived in the land of Palestine, who claimed to be a Palestinian. Like Golda Meir, like she was exported from Ukraine to the United States and imported to Palestine from the United States and claimed to be a Palestinian. But she was imported from the United States. And then she was like, God, yeah, I might forgive you for killing my children, but I will never forgive you for making me kill yours. And it's like, what the hell? So every Palestinian in the receiving end of an Israeli bullet is not the victim of the Israeli bullet. He's the perpetrator of the Israeli. So the victim is the Israeli soldier. It's not the Palestinian child, you know? That's like why like many Israeli criminals like end up being like given compensation by the Israeli government because they are viewed as, you know, victims who are suffering from psychological dysfunction because they had to kill some Palestinians. Like even Nazis were not as creative.
On those videos that I'm not going to show here, I see like a young Israeli, like 12 years old, 13 years old, going to Palestinian village. They are trying to harvest the olive trees
Yeah,
with sticks, attacking women
yeah,
and forcing like a reaction. But
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
not on the
yeah.
video, but I'm sure that there's some
Where does
Israeli
it?
with gunshots.
Hold on.
with guns behind the hills, waiting for something to go there and
Hold
kill
on.
everybody.
Hold on. One of the projections we are subject to is that like Palestinians teach their children to hate Israelis or to hate Jews, and that's ridiculous because I am a product of Palestinian school curriculums. I am a product of Palestinian raising. If anything, like we glorify Jewish figures like Jesus, like Mary, like John the Baptist, like Moses, like David, like Solomon, like all those figures are glorified. But when you look at Israeli school books, the brainwashing of those who were born to Jewish families in the state of Israel starts from the age of 3, where subjects to Israeli education in Israeli schools are forced to believe that Palestinians are a problem, Palestinians are a threat, Palestinians are definite, terrorists. So you are subject to that education for nearly 15 years. It's very crafted very, 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 very well. There is a
Brainwashed
book
daily, on a daily basis.
for 15 years. After 15 years, they are ready to go into the army to implement, the bullshit that they were subject to and filled with. Israelis are hopeless because they have been brainwashed for 15 years. No, they were brainwashed for 18 years out of 21. By the age of 21, they have been brainwashed for 18 years. And they are hopeless. No psychiatrist can fix an Israeli soldier. Not one. Because the damage that is being carried out and imposed on those people is irreversible.
And almost everyone there is a soldier, right? Because army is
Every soldier,
mandatory.
every soldier, every soldier. There's a book called Palestine in Israeli School Books. Look it up. I'll send you an electronic copy of it. And it's made by an Israeli professor of education who analyzed Israeli school books. I'll look up an electronic copy and share it with you.
Yeah, I can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Israelis are hopeless. That's it.
So
all of them, even like Israeli peace-loving Israelis, like even Israelis who claim to be, on the side of Palestinians, or Israelis who talk about like equality and all. No, they are all hopeless. They're unable. They're unable to see Palestinians as the indigenous population of the land of Palestine. They're unable to see Palestinians as, full human beings who can teach them how to learn, who can teach them how to survive and live on the land of Palestine. They're hopeless.
And what about these protests that sometimes we see going on in Israel, and we have
they're
image that they are protesting against the government
yeah.
Palestine.
No, they're not pro-Palestine. There is no such a thing as pro-Palestine Israelis. Because once again, the concept of pro-Palestine is once again goes into like turning Israeli oppression into a debatable issue. Like you are, where are you from in Brazil, Carlos?
I'm from the countryside of state of Rio, but
Rio. Like, what's your favorite team? What's your favorite football team?
Wow, because of my father, it was Fluminense, but I don't follow.
Fluminense. Okay, let's say you honor your father and it's Fluminense. Like, what about Flamengo? Are you pro Fluminense or pro Flamengo?
Fluminense, of course.
Okay, so like, are you pro Palestine or pro Israel? It's not a football team. It's not a football game. Israeli oppression does not require a pro this and pro that. The media and the propaganda have turned Israeli oppression into a debatable matter. So you are pro this or you are pro that. It's not a debatable matter. It's not a football game.
So it's
real life is being destroyed.
It's a waste of time debating that.
That James Baldwin said something very profound when it comes to debate.
The great American writer.
He said that we can agree to disagree and still love each other unless our disagreement is rooted in my oppression and denial of my humanity. Every time you debate me, you reduce my humanity. Every time you debate me as a Palestinian, you eliminate my oppression. I'm not a debate matter. I'm not a matter of debate. You either recognize my oppressor or you are blind to my oppressor. You do not debate my oppressor. You know? So the language of pro this and pro that is like a language that Western propaganda has imposed on us, and many people are being fooled by it. Many people feel, oh, it's cute to be pro-Palestinian. Oh, it's cute to be pro-Israeli. Who cares? Who cares?
What does it change?
Yeah, like it actually, like when I was in Sao Paulo, I found myself to be like pro-homeless. You know, I saw a lot of homeless people. It drove me crazy. I was pro-homeless, but like, what did my position do to any homeless person? The only thing I could do is like share a bottle of water with one. And that's the best I could do. But like, did I improve their life? No. My rejection to homelessness, you know, tells more about me than it tells about resolving the issue of homelessness. My rejection to Israeli oppression tells more about me than it tells about Israeli oppression. It's my duty as a human being to reject Israeli oppression. How do I express my rejection? It's in my hands. The same way, like how do you express your rejection? It's also in your hands.
Yeah, this interview is my rejection against Israeli oppression.
It's one of the methods of rejecting Israeli oppression or expressing your rejection to Israeli oppression.
Yeah. Okay, Baha. So for an introduction, I think we have some good stuff here.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
like to thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
I
And hope
forgot.
this is the first of many, 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 many.
I hope so. I forgot like how to say thank you in Brazilian or in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, like
Obrigado.
obrigado, obrigado, obrigado.
Obrigado.
Yeah, thank you so much, obrigado, Carlos. And yeah, we'll talk more. I hope like you find good input in this, and you will not have difficult time editing this.
Yes, no, it's go as it was live. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And please send my love and greetings to our beloved Ahmed. Yeah, I miss him so much.
Yeah.